This meeting is being recorded.
Gotta love Zoom with the new, making sure everyone knows it's recording now. All right, well, good morning, everybody. Scott Dolch here, President and CEO of the Connecticut Restaurant Association. For those that don't know me, I guess I wanted to start with, an exciting day, and we'll get into kind of the heart of this call, with what happened yesterday with expanded outdoor dining and what that bill means. But I did want to kind of start there. Always, at the Capitol, there's not always, good things that are happening. But yesterday was a great day, and I know Nicole will be on, and want to thank her personally, and David Tigliano, who's on, and the members of the Planning Development Committee, to get that thing across the finish line yesterday through the Senate. So we're expecting the governor to sign it. So we'll get into that more, but I wanted to start there because
it's supposed to be a black screen with this.
And obviously just making sure you guys stay on mute through this process for everybody here. So I will turn this thing over to myself here. I'll share my screen and go into, try to open the right one. Everybody see that on their screen, I hope. I'm going to say yes because Nicole's
good,
stealing the
Scott.
video.
Looks
All right,
good.
thanks, Yvette. All right, so kind of what we're going to go through a little bit today. I'll give a quick update with Yvette, talk about federal and national for a little bit. Some things are going on down there. We'll get right into the expanded outdoor dining and what it means for you as a restaurateur. And then we'll also talk about legislative session, other bills that are out there, and really then try to hopefully have some time at the end to really open up for questions and answers, things we're still trying to work on. As we know, session ends on May 4th. So I'm going to turn this over to start to Yvette. So I get this next slide up to give kind of a membership update for everybody on the call.
Thank you, Scott. And we've got a lot of things going on the membership side. So I did ask for some screen time today just to kind of go over some of this. Wanted to start by letting everybody know that we do have a membership resource guide that we are putting together. We do get a lot of questions throughout the year from our members, and we're trying to work together to pull kind of the most common questions that we get from you and the resources that we want to make sure you have at your fingertips. So more to come on that. But that will be a piece that we will be mailing out to all of our members. So you've got it as a reference year round. You're still welcome to reach out to us with questions at any time, but this will allow you to have a lot of those things right at your fingertips. Benefits, I wanted to mention this as well. And just to let you know, once I get through these, I will share in the chat any of the links that I reference here. And when we send the email after this with the link to the recording, we will include those links there as well. But benefits, this is one of the things where we get a lot of times, people will kind of ask, well, what do you do as the CRA? And you understand the advocacy and the representation side of what we do. But there's a lot of other value and a lot of other benefits that you get. And I want to make sure as a member that you're aware of these benefits. We do have a page on our website that covers it's way too much. It could really be a separate webinar for us to go over what all those benefits are. So, but we want to make sure you're aware of what they are. If you're not yet a member, this gives you a really good breakdown of, everything from all of the resources and information, the support, the training, the education, the networking, the events, the savings, all that other stuff that falls under membership. We want to make sure you're aware of what those things are. So I will share that link with you in just a moment to cover some of that. One of those benefits as a member is a weekly legislative update email. We do these webinars usually about once a month to make sure that, statewide, all folks, whether you're a member or not, that you are getting this information and you are getting updated. But for our members, we want to make sure there's so much that happens during legislative session. We want to make sure that you know what's happening, what decisions are being made. Things move very fast. There may be times where you need to take action. We share links to news and things like that. So those emails are going out usually weekly unless there's not a whole lot of updates in a week. But I am getting some inquiries that are coming in from members about specific legislative questions that are covered in those emails. So I'm finding that not everybody's aware that you're getting those emails. So check your spam, check just to make sure. We usually send them out on Fridays. You're always welcome to reach out if you have additional questions, but I wanted to make sure that those emails are going out to you while we're in session. The member portal, I can't communicate enough how important it is for you to know how to access the member portal and go there. More and more of what we provide to our members is going to be available in the member portal. You can access that anytime from our website. The portal, if you remember a few months ago, we did some updates that makes it much more user-friendly. It's much more intuitive. The navigation is much easier. You have, all members have access to that. You can access your account. You can add, if you want anybody else on your team to have access to the portal and the resources in there, you can do that as well. Membership dues are always in there. If you haven't, I know I spoke with Allison on our membership team yesterday, and she was saying we're over, I think over 70% of our members have paid their dues. We really appreciate that. That's really incredible. We truly are a member-based, not-for-profit trade association. So everything we do that you see today, all of those benefits that I mentioned, we're able to do that because of the support we get from our members. So we really appreciate everybody who's gotten current on your 2022 dues. But we also have, if you need access to your invoices, sometimes members will reach out to us and ask for their latest invoice so that they can get an insurance discount or something like that. So that's always available to you in the portal. I'll mention the community event calendar in just a moment. Also in the portal, we will be putting links to our webinars so that you always have access to the latest webinar. Just log into the portal. At the very top of the navigation screen, you'll see a pull down that says member resources. And the last webinar that we've done, the recording will always be there. We do send an email out after our webinars to everybody who registers. So we always recommend register. Whether or not you can make the webinar, we will send that email to anyone who registers. It'll include a link to the webinar, and it'll include other resources that we reference in the webinar. But just so you know, as a member, you always have access to the link in the member portal. Community events calendar. This is a new resources that we're getting ready to roll out. We're really excited. We have as you know, we have a calendar already on our CRA side. This is where we list all of our upcoming events, our Serve Safe classes. But we've now created a community events calendar that allows you as a member to promote events that you have happening in your business or in your restaurant. So this wouldn't be like your everyday, like this wouldn't be your happy hour menu that you do, let's say Monday through Thursday. This would be truly an event if you have, let's say, a wine dinner, or you have a pop-up event, or maybe you're doing a fundraising event at your restaurant or at your business. You can share that event with us. We will promote our community events calendar and promote your event through that. This is available to all of our members, including our allied members. We're excited. I think Markham Accountants submitted their annual food and beverage summit that's coming up in June. So we're excited. We already have events starting to come in. I will share that link with you, but please share with us your events so we can get those communicated out on our calendar. The Allied Member Directory, I've been talking about this a lot. We have done a lot of updates to our Allied Member program this year. Our Allied Member Directory is much easier for you to navigate. So our allied members are businesses that provide products and services to the industry. So these are things you use every day, like POS, insurance, any kind of legal support, really anything that you need, equipment, anything that you need in your business. We have vendors that are part of our allied member program that provide these products and services. These members are supportive of the industry. They support the mission of the CRA. So we ask that anytime that you do need a vendor or you're looking for resources or support, please start with our Allied Member Directory. And just as a note, I mentioned that the membership resource guide that's going out, if you are an Allied member, because I know we have a lot of Allied members on this call, and you want to be included in the member resource guide, please let us know. There is a hard deadline for April 15th on that. And the member exclusive savings program, this is part of, it falls under our allied membership program. Many of our allied members provide discounts or savings or exclusive savings just to our members. We want to make sure that you're aware of that. So please look out. We will begin sharing the various programs that are available. I will share that link in just a minute. We just started loading the discounts in there. So continue to look back every week or so, because we'll be adding more savings as we get them. Again, if you are an Allied member and you want to be included in that, please reach out to us so that we can get your savings into this program, as we are going to be promoting this throughout the year. I think that's all that I have, Scott. Is there anything that I missed?
No, I appreciate the update of it, and obviously want to thank everyone already that has become a member for 2022, whether you are a restaurant member or Allied member. Besides all the other stuff we're going to talk about on advocacy and our events, but realistically, there's so much savings and opportunities that you have to take advantage of. And I give Yvette and our team so much credit for all the work that they do. That resource guide, we kind of learned from the past when we used to give out the employee handbooks from Fort Harrison and Ryan O'Donnell, how valuable those are. And I think we're kind of taking that a step further with our resource guide. So we're actually working on a booklet that we will send to all of the members that you hopefully will have a shelf life for a year, that will have, a listing of our Allied members, our vendors, and opportunities for you. And obviously to have a presence there as an Allied member, please reach out to us. That deadline's really April 15th as we try to put that together, hoping in years to come, that'll come out very early in the year. But because this is the first year we've done it, we want to get you guys a resource kind of booklet where you can say, hey, what about this category? What about that category? What about, someone that I might need from, a food purveyor to a hood cleaner to a lawyer to, all the different vendors that we have. We want to give them, put it right in front of you, something that you can have, inside your office at the restaurant as a resource guide. And we think there's a lot of added benefit to our Allied members that are part of that program, our Prime members, our Advantage, as well as just our regular Allied members, our core members as well. So no, Yvette, I think it's great. I do have another slide that I'll just kind of jump in. Our ServSafe classes are starting to get back to normal from an in-person class. Our schedule is online. Remember, as a member, there's discounts to you for taking our classes. And we have 2 great instructors that go all around the state and take and help teach classes. We're actually working with the team at Cisco to bring back our Rocky Hill, which was our most popular class, every first Monday of the month. I'm hoping to get that done by the early part of the summer. I'm going to get that going again, but our in-person classes are up and running and filling up fast. So make sure, if you need to get your ServSafe certification or anyone on your team, please reach out to us. We do group classes. You could do stuff online and still do full online and tests, but obviously our in-person classes, we teach almost one a week, sometimes multiple times throughout the year. And then obviously the events, just stuff that's going on right now, so everyone's aware. With public affairs, that is, which I'll get into. Yes, Spanish ServSafe is in person. We have typically done a couple Spanish classes in person. Great question, Matthew. We can help. Make sure you reach out to us. We'll help you guys any way that we can with your teams. But just getting into our events, just so you guys have dates on the calendar. DC in the end of April, heading down with the core group of our board and extended legislative committee down to our public affairs conference in Washington, DC, to meet with our delegates. Also, there's the show, the National Restaurant Association show in Chicago. Remember, as a member of the CRA, you get a free admission ticket to the show out in Chicago. Please reach out to us. We can help you guys with your national membership number to be able to get those tickets, which is a great benefit of being a member, because you also are a national member. So that's May 21st to 24th. And then obviously our 2 big events, we already have our dates set. Monday, June 27th is the Golf Classic. And then Monday, December 5th will be our Crazies back at Foxwoods. So Lyman Orchards for golf and Foxwoods again for the Crazies. So keeping those on your guys' calendar as we move forward, and look forward to having 2 record-breaking events again in 2022. All right, shifting gears, let's just go quickly into kind of a national and federal update. I wish I had great news, but let's at least start with some of the changes one of the big changes that's happened. As you guys probably remember, Tom Bonet was the CEO of the National Restaurant Association. He came over from really Cisco and Pepsi, was there a little under 18 months. kind of started right at the beginning of the pandemic, and then had left the National Restaurant Association and kind of without a leader. A couple weeks ago, they announced a new CEO that's going to be taking over, Michelle Korsmo. She's actually the current Wine Spirit Wholesalers of America CEO. So Larry Cafaro and others that know Larry know her very well. She comes from an association background world, which is great news for me as a CEO of a state, understanding how the states are so important to what we do on a federal and national level. Actually had a call with her on Monday this week, and just great to connect. And she's going to officially start, I believe, May 1st. She will be down at the show in Washington, D.C. to those that are on the call that will be down traveling with us. So excited for obviously a new leadership, kind of that piece with national. I think there's trying to work together on that one voice, trying to really do a lot to come out of this recovery, this pandemic. So that is obviously some big update there with Michelle taking over as the CEO, and will officially start on May 1st. RRF replenishment, kind of next bullet there. You guys probably saw, we're obviously still not stopping the fight, but it was not in the omnibus bill. A lot of pushback. You can blame both sides. It's not one side or the other, about not wanting to put any more money towards the replenishment, which is very, very frustrating. I know there's 2,066 businesses in the state of Connecticut that were not funded with that $489 million. 16 or 1,300 businesses received funding, almost $300 million, but they left 2/3 of our restaurants out. We are continuing to fight. We're trying to find pathways to help those. I saw the governor yesterday and just talking about, the impact of that and how that affects so many businesses in Connecticut that were expecting dollars, had registered, had applied, had gone through the process, and then unfortunately did not receive it. So I wish I had better news on replenishment. I wish I could tell everybody here that we were going to, this was going to get done. And the fight isn't over, but it's definitely, it's harder right now. It's very difficult with everything going on around the world, the inflation rising and everything else. They're, getting ready for a November election. There's so much that is, our backs against the wall to try to find a solution to this. I know Representative Blumenauer had a call with Rosa DeLauro and some others were on it earlier this week that I joined. Trying to keep media top of mind as well to talk about this and the impacts that we're all feeling. So I wish I could give you guys better news for those that haven't gotten it. I'm not sitting here to say it's over, but there's just it's going to be very, very difficult to find a pathway, at least in the next few months, on a federal level with funding. It seems that both sides don't really want to get together and do anything. Frustrating, as that is, but that's really where we are down in Washington. And obviously, we're going to continue to make noise. We're going to continue when we get down there in April to try to find ways. And then I'm trying to pivot to a state side to figure out creative ways to get you guys more help and support. ERTC funding delays. I have heard some good news on this front. That some people have started to receive checks, which is always a good sign that they are coming, but they're slow. They're not coming as fast as they could. They should be coming a lot faster. But if you did apply for ERTC, let's say 2020 or first, second, and third quarter 2021, if you haven't received funding yet, don't panic. There's not like they're going to run out of money that has been approved. It's really a delay with the IRS and cutting those checks. So I'm hopeful those checks will start to continue to come. Like I've heard over the last 3 or 4 weeks, people have actually seen checks. But if you're, still frustrated, or maybe it's 2020, just keep us posted, and we'll try to do what we can. I know National sent another letter to the IRS trying to get that thing done. And then obviously on reinstatement of quarter 4, as you guys know, ERTC was supposed to be for all 4 quarters of 2021 as part of the infrastructure bill. They took out quarter 4 to be able to pay for the infrastructure. Very frustrating. We are pushing with legislators to try to get that reinstated. I know there's some restaurants that have said to me they might not even be eligible for quarter 4, but a vast majority of you are. So trying to keep you guys abreast of that if we can get that done. So you can have ERTC. If you look at the ERTC and you're looking at me right now on the camera and going, what is ERTC? I don't know that acronym. It's Employee Retention Tax Credit. If you do not know what that is and you have not applied, what it is, it's a tax credit that you can take on employees that you've retained throughout the pandemic. Everyone in it is really eligible, especially in 2020, because there were restrictions on your business with limited seating. When we didn't have indoor dining, all of those restrictions allowed you to take that tax credit. So please reach out to us and my team to help you with our CPAs and others. Even some of the payrolls. I know Dave Koletsky at DataPay is helping in this process, but you can still apply. You can still go back and backdate apply. But if you're looking at me and seeing the words ERTC and are like, I don't think I did that yet, it's substantial dollars. It's something you should be doing. So please reach out to us immediately to kind of help you through that process on ERTC, and hopefully we can get Q4. And the last update to national is really the public affairs conference. Other topics besides obviously replenishment of RRF, ERTC Q4, talking about an H2C process of longer term strategies with the delegation down there of trying to figure out how we help our industry as we talk about recovery and we talk about immigration reform, other things that on the horizon, tax credits, things that need to be looked at to help small businesses across the country. And we'll be carrying that narrative with national when we get down into DC a month from now. So that's really my national update. We shift to these are our 7 delegates. If you don't know them, with our 2 senators at the top, Blumenthal and Murphy, and obviously Himes, Larson, Delora, Hayes, and Courtney. We are continuing to push on them on the support that is needed for our industry, and how important it is down in DC that they do what they can to support us any way that they can with programs and replenishment and everything else. So continue, if we have that text replenish to 52886, you will actually send a letter directly to your delegate, your both senators, as well as the delegate in your district on the House member about replenishing RRF. All right, let's shift over to a stateside. I kind of pulled Nicole back up on her screen here so she can give everybody kind of a quick update of what's going on. So this is kind of the news of the day, the news, I guess, of the last, I think Nicole and I have been working on this for about 3 or 4 months, as well as Representative Ritigliano, who I know is on the call, and thanking Dave personally as well. As you guys know, one of the things that saved our industry, many things saved our industry. I know I talk all the time. You guys see me in media. We had 600 plus restaurants close their doors permanently. We saw a lot go into hibernation. And that winter of 2020 into 2021 was one of the darkest times. 2 things I think really made a big difference for our industry throughout the pandemic. One was federal funding, whether that was first round of PPP, not so much, but second round of PPP, ERTC, other things that happened, obviously some of the state grants, some of the state programs, but outdoor dining was, I think, really a godsend when you look at it. And obviously the governor started with that with his executive order in May of 2020 with executive order 7MM. That really pushed us to the early part of, I guess, late winter, early spring of 2021. And we worked with the legislature with Nicole's help and got a bill passed, which was a special act that extended the governor's executive order for another year. We fast forward a year where we are right now. Who would have known that, yes, we had a vaccine, but what Delta did, and then obviously Omicron coming and rearing its ugly head this winter, and how it affected all of you guys, how the secondary effects of COVID are still playing a huge role in having you guys struggle to make a profit, whether that's worker shortage, food supply issues. Obviously, inflation continues to rise and the added cost. So we talked a lot about how important outdoor dining is for our restaurants as we talk about recovery. So with the help of Nicole, we went back to the Planning and Development Committee really in about late January. I remember Dave being on a call with us, and we were talking about how do we get this done? How do we allow restaurants a chance to be outside again? And what I mean by that is if you don't have a patio, being able to use parking lots and grass areas and putting up tents, just like you've been doing the last 2 years to give you guys that expanded footprint to help you in your recovery. This is obviously a picture of West Hartford downtown in the center of what they did there with the one-way traffic. But with that, what we came to a conclusion, the best way to kind of do this was, instead of trying to work around a governor's bill that was done last year that is going to help alleviate some of it. Some of our towns are way out in front. I think West Hartford is a perfect example in this photo, Sherry Cantor, about trying to work with all the restaurants to give them that opportunity to stay outside. And our goal is to try to make this as much of a permanent thing in different ways as we can. But as much as one town was well ahead, I learned in the mask mandate that not every town is the same. Not every town, is looking to be a huge beneficiary to the restaurant. Some are looking to start charging you guys. Some are trying to take away some of the areas you might have had in the past. That's what we started to learn early in 2021. And that's why we went to planning and development. And what we asked of them was, can we take this special act that expires on March 31st, which is next Thursday, and can we extend it for another 13 months, which is April 30th, 2023. That means that as the bill passed yesterday in the Senate, it really allows every restaurant on this call, every restaurant in our state, to do exactly what they've been able to do for the last 2 years. Wherever you've had space, obviously the town still has the right to make sure it's okay from an ADA standpoint, from a fire coding standpoint, all the other challenges that you've worked with them for the last 2 years, but they're allowing you to do it again with this bill, this piece of legislation. So it is a great win for our industry in the state of Connecticut, allowing really everybody that opportunity. If you haven't purchased your tent yet, or your igloos for next winter, or whatever that you might want to do, looking ahead and preparing to make outdoor dining a part of your strategy as your restaurant in recovery for the next 13 months. I know you guys have already been doing that, but if you were worried about that, I know so many phone calls we've been fielding over the last 2 months about what is that going to mean? Am I going to be able to do that again? Can I get that tent? Can I go back to that same space? This piece of legislation is allowing you to do that. And there's obviously more people than I know that I need to thank for this. But knowing that I know how important this is for you guys to be able to survive and recover, and just, make it easier. I saw some towns kind of say to people, hey, you can do that again, but here's a $3,000 bill. You can do that again, but here's a new permitting process that you're going to have to go through, and you can't use X, Y, and Z, or you're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. We have to worry about all these other things. And I think, obviously the town needs to work with you guys, which I know they will. But I'm excited for another year of expanded outdoor dining. I think, you're going to see even more towns allow more and do hopefully more and using ARPA funds to help you guys in promoting it. But I kind of will turn it over to Nicole a little bit. I feel like that maybe I missed something. But just, from what the legislation does, obviously the governor is expected to sign it hopefully as early as the end of this week or early next week, which will go into law, and you'll have until the end of April next year. So, Nicole, did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it all. It really changes nothing for restaurants that have been taking advantage of the executive order and the special act from last year. It will continue through the end of April next year. There might be some confusion out there. I understand some towns are going out to restaurants and saying, this is going to expire. You have to take tents down, move tables, those kinds of things. So we just want to assure everyone that that's not the case. This did in fact pass. So, now might be a time for any questions on this issue. If anyone has any, we can try to answer them.
I think to Nicole's point, and I would say put it in the chat, or if you really have a question, you feel free to unmute yourself as well. But I think also making sure you go back out and reach out to your town, over the next week. If you haven't already had a conversation with them. I mean, I talked to like a couple folks down in Norwalk, a couple folks in New Haven, just making sure that, the people that you've worked with in the past, they have that heads up. They know what this legislation means, what it does, what it allows you to do. And if you have any issues, like if you're like, Scott, I was able to use this grass area, I was able to use my parking lot to put up a tent, but I'm getting some pushback that they're saying, I can't do that this year. That's something that we need to know immediately to help you guys, because we're looking obviously outside. The weather's kind of crappy today with the rain. I know we had a 71-degree weather day last week. But I know that you're going to start to make those plans over the next few weeks to get your outdoor space ready to go, and how you're going to do it. So I also use this as an opportunity over the next couple of weeks to give us feedback. If you start to, and we're going to do everything we can. We promoted this out to the media last night. We're going to hopefully do a ceremonial bill signing next week, just so more and more towns are aware of what this piece of legislation does and what it allows for not only restaurants, but retail opportunities to go outside and use that outdoor footprint. So I don't see any questions going up in the chat. Anyone need to unmute themselves and ask a question? Going once, twice. All right, well, continue to write stuff in the chat. We got some other things to talk about today as well. This is the good side of the session, as Nicole knows, and I don't want her to be the bearer of always bad news of what things or other things we're working on. So I do want to personally thank Nicole for her efforts of getting this done, and obviously the members of the Planning Development Committee. With Senator Cassano from Manchester, you had Representative McCarthy Vahey down in Fairfield, Senator Tony Wong down in that area as well, and Representative Zullo, and for all their work of working through the development committee, working to try to figure out issues that people had. Also CCM and cost, working with us and knowing how important and vital this is to the restaurants. Really, I think we hit almost like, we thought this would be a little bit easier, but nothing is easy in the state of trying to make sure we answered all the questions and the worries. And we were dealing with sewer and septic and ADA and all the other alcohol being so many different things that we tried to get answers for, to make sure, at the end of the day, I think everyone understood how important this is for our industry. So without any other questions, I'll just kind of shift to the next slide. Before I kind of have Nicole go through kind of where we are on other bills in session, ARPA funding, please make sure that you are pushing your town selectman or mayor and asking them what they're doing with ARPA funding. I have the full list if you want to know what your town received. As an example, the city of New Haven received $118 million. I think West Hartford was 38 million. Every town received ARPA funds, which is the American Rescue Plan Act. It's the funding that some of it came to the state. We don't have really county-based government here in the state of Connecticut, so it really got spread out to all 169 towns. Please make sure that we kind of work through that funding process, because I think as I've told the mayor of New Haven, I've told the mayor of Danbury, I've had different meetings. I'm going to go down to Stanford in a couple of weeks. Those are real dollars that they should be allocating a portion of those dollars to hospitality and our industry directly, whether that's direct subsidies or that's, I'll give West Hartford a lot of credit. I keep giving Sherry a lot of credit in this. Like, she's taking, a couple $1 million and doing capital improvements to fix up the outside. That's going to benefit, potholes on sidewalks and lighting and, doing things with the one-way streets to make it even easier for those on the outdoor side over the summer. So she's using ARPA funds for that. I've seen other towns using ARPA funds for their marketing dollars and how they're trying to help hospitality talk about pride in their city and bring people into their city, hopefully to their restaurants and supporting you. So yeah, David, I can get you the Stonington Groton numbers. We'll get that over to you. I'm not going to start just hitting everybody with the town number, but we do have that full sheet, and you can try to make sure you're talking to the state, the local officials there, and we can help any way we can. So Nicole, you want to go through kind of session and the other fun times that we're having up at the state capitol, or maybe more you're having?
Yeah, so it's a ton of fun at the state capitol. So there's about 6 weeks left, I think, from yesterday until the end of the session. We're in what's called a short legislative session. It's just 3 months. It's been a hybrid session, so legislators are in the building a little bit more than they were last year, which is good because those of us that are lobbyists or members of the public have a little bit more access. But hybrid means they're there sometimes for committee meetings and sometimes not. They are there in the building for session days. So yesterday, for example, was a session day. So we're able to actually speak face-to-face with legislators. So I'm much more effective at my job when I can talk to legislators face-to-face. I think Dave Bertigliano, who many of you know, is a restaurant owner and a legislator, is on this webinar today, but he's playing legislator and restaurant operator because the Labor Committee is also meeting as we speak. Some of the bills on Scott's slide here are in front of the Labor Committee or have already been moved out of the Labor Committee. The Labor Committee isn't known for acting on bills that are necessarily favorable to employers. In fact, quite the opposite. Two of the bills on this list, or the predictive scheduling and captive audience bills, are in front of the Labor Committee. Excuse me. For those of you that have been active CRA members, these are two familiar bills. The scheduling bill, which is called the Fair Work Week bill, has been around for at least the past 5 or 6 years. It's a bill that's really targeted at the hospitality and retail industry that would essentially require notice of scheduling. It's varied over the years from about 2 weeks notice of scheduling, and essentially employers are penalized if schedules change or are canceled, and you're penalized by having to pay employees for those shifts if those schedules are canceled or changed. It's a pretty narrow bill this year for the hospitality industry. It impacts franchisees, and restaurants that have 500 or more employees and 30 or more locations. So probably not too many folks on this call, unless you are a franchisee or a national chain is really where the target is in this year's version of the bill. It was voted out of the Labor Committee on Tuesday of this week. It is a House bill, which means it will go to the floor of the House and await action. What's going to happen with the bill is the big question everyone asks. At this point in time, we don't know. So with 6 weeks left, that means probably about 12, 13 session days that the House is going to be contemplating legislation. The bill is very controversial, as it always has been, and we have to wait and see where the votes are. Last year, the business industry, specifically the Restaurant Association, worked very hard against the bill. We had enough votes to defeat the bill in the House after it did pass the Senate. So it did not move in the House. We're working to do the same thing this year so that it does not move out of the House. The captive audience bill is another bill that's familiar to us. It's been around for well over 10 years. It's a bill that's being pushed specifically by unions. And it's a bill that essentially prohibits employers from mandating employees attend meetings that those meetings, the topics in those meetings surround political discussions, specifically talking about unions. So in other words, if there was an attempt to unionize your employees, you would not be able to mandate your employees attend a meeting where you're discussing the reasons you would not want them to join a union. Years ago, when George Jepson was Attorney General in Connecticut, he told the legislature this legislation was illegal and therefore they couldn't pass it. He is no longer Attorney General, and the current Attorney General does not take that same position. I believe this bill has legs. I believe it's going to move out of the Senate this year. Its fate in the House is yet to be determined. I believe it's the top priority of the labor unions this year, and that if any bill is going to pass both chambers, it's going to be the captive audience this year. The captive audience bill. I don't think there's a major impact on hospitality unless we see ourselves facing union organizing at some point down the road. Data privacy is here on Scott's list. That's also a bill that's been floating around for the past 3 or 4 years. It's a complicated piece of legislation that has passed in only about 3 or 4 other states, really working right now in one state. In 2 other states, it hasn't even gone into effect yet. It's a bill that basically allows people to own their own data. So it says that you can't sell someone's personal data. In other words, if you are a company that collects the data of your customers, consumers, by way of collecting someone's personal information when they come in to make a reservation, they give you their name and phone number, by way of people visiting your website, by way of people visiting your website and then going to OpenTable, by way of people visiting your website and then going to Uber Eats, you're collecting their data. This legislation would say that you're prohibited from selling that data. Most people will say they are not in the business of collecting this data or selling it. Unfortunately, if your website or you collect the data of 75,000 people in a calendar year, you would be captured under this legislation. It's really complicated. There are a lot of unanswered questions right now. It is the #1 priority of the Senate Majority Leader, and it came pretty close to passing last year on a bill that was a compromise. So we are working to try to either put language in it that allows restaurants to be in a better position so they're not liable for lawsuits, or we're trying to find ourselves exempt from this altogether. Where that ends up right now is tough to predict. There's some momentum behind this bill to pass this year. The unemployment trusts, that's also here on the slide. As you all know, during the pandemic, many thousands of people in Connecticut were on unemployment. The state had to borrow money to fund unemployment, and now is left having to pay it back. For anyone who owned a business about 12 years ago after the Great Recession knows what happened. Businesses were had an assessment put on them and had to pay back hundreds of millions of dollars. We were the last state to pay back a loan from the federal government because of it, and it was a lot of money that was put on the backs of businesses. The state sits facing about a $700 million that needs to be paid back. I think 200 million was put into this last year during a legislative session. So the Restaurant Association, along with CBIA and other trade groups, have been lobbying the legislature to fund this so that we aren't in a similar situation as we were about a dozen years ago. What that number looks like, we don't know. How much actually goes into there, we don't know. In the governor's budget this year, he increased spending by a significant amount of money. So there is not a ton of money sitting out there as one might think, because the state has been flush with cash. So a lot of questions with not a lot of answers because of the time left on the calendar of the legislative session. That's probably a lot of information for people. You could feel free to send me questions in the chat. Dave, if you're here and there's anything you'd like to add, feel free to jump in. I'm not sure if you're with us or you're in the Labor Committee. I think I've covered most of the major issues that are out there. There are some other smaller bills floating around the legislature that we see every year that probably won't see the light of day, but those are the big issues that the CRA is facing for the next 6 weeks.
I'm here and I thought you covered it very well.
Thank you.
No, thanks, Nicole. I'm just trying to look to the chat. Remember, if you guys have questions for Nicole, I'll go back actually for a second, if I can. Also, I forgot to put on here, it's not really in session, but it had passed years ago and it's something that I am working on. I don't have any direct answers yet. I'm trying to work with some of our larger groups, and that has to deal with retirement. My CT savings, you guys as business owners probably got an email in regards to this. This was a piece of legislation, Nicole, I think that passed like 2 or 3 years ago. Am I wrong on that, Nicole? The CT.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years ago, you're probably right. Yep.
Okay, so as you guys know, FMLA, where it takes 0.5% out of everyone's paycheck to do the paid family leave. This is a program that was passed that, you know, if you do not have a retirement program that you offer your employees, they pretty much need to go through the MyCT savings program. So we have the state controlling a retirement program. Because of that, and also because of learning from my colleagues out there, I am trying to find another option for you. You know, I know you could go out on your own and do a 401k for your employees in retirement, which some of you have done. I'm trying to find more cost-effective solutions. I actually have about 4 companies that have sent me information, and we're trying to make a decision. Hopefully, I know that you have to make a decision with MyCT Savings. You have to submit all your information by June 30th, 2022 is the email that I saw the other day. So my update and my advice to everyone here is, you know, I'm hoping much sooner than that we will have options for you. Not saying you have to do our option. You can always go back to the state plan, or you could go to your own plan. But, you know, we are trying to find, like I said before, something that works for you, something that can save you as a member of the CRA substantial money. You know, the fiduciary side, the cost for auditing, all of that we're kind of working through with the different vendors, and we want to select the best one for all of you guys here. And I hope to have more of that information. I would hope that would probably be our next webinar as we move forward to kind of talk through that, because that MyCT Savings is kind of emails that started to pop up over the last week or so you guys have gotten, and what that means. And that's what that is. It's a retirement program from the state that you have to be offering something. If you are offering something, you can opt out of it. Your employees can opt out of it. But obviously, if you're not, that's where the state has, you know, everything needs to be through the state. So that was another thing I forgot to add to the slide today. But no, I appreciate it, Nicole. like she said before, this is 6 weeks to go in session. This is the crunch time. Realistically, over the next couple of weeks, there's, like she said, there's probably only 14 or 15 days that are actually happening in session to get stuff done. And a lot can change in a day, a lot can change in a couple hours. And I just need everyone to make sure when you see emails from us or you see alerts, if we need your voice, if we need to have a call to action, we need you to pick up the phone and call a legislator because of an issue. Please stay awake for that and be aware that that's what we're doing. We're not going to have you guys call on all these different bills. But when we know that something has the potential to pass or something that could really hurt our industry, that's really where we get the action alerts. You'll see text messages. You'll see different ways that we're going to need you. It could even be a press conference or show up at the Capitol. We'll walk through that and work through that with our members. We have 2,300 members now with a very large voice and loud. So I want to make sure that you guys know that we will, when we do ask of something from you guys from an advocacy side, we need you guys to do that and do it in a quick and timely manner. And at the same time, it goes back to even the legislators knowing that they'll talk to Nicole, they'll talk to me, but deep down it's a whole different conversation when it's an owner operator from their district. We just know that, they look at us as true lobbyists, and they don't view you guys as lobbyists. They view you guys as hearing from a small business owner in their district, what's going on, how this bill would affect them. And that's what we need. So stay tuned for that. And then just kind of going through, the only other thing is we didn't put on here, but we've talked about in every webinar, the tax remittance program. I was actually with the DRS Commissioner, Mark Boughton, yesterday. You have another last week in May. So if you didn't take advantage of it in August, if you didn't take advantage of it in December, you have 1 week in May. I believe it's like the week of the 11th that you have an opportunity to keep all 7.35% of your sales and use tax. So everything that you bring in that week, if you haven't done it already, when you go to submit your taxes, which will be the end of June for the month of May, you will click a button on the DRS Connecticut website. You'll say, I'm using this week. Here's what that week total was. And that money does not need to be resubmitted to the state. So I've talked to many of you that took advantage of it in December, August. It was really, really helped. It looked like it was like $6,000 to $8,000 on average, some less, some more per location. But those are real dollars. It's a grant program. I'm trying to see if there's a way to get things like that and moving forward to help you guys. But please make sure that you do everything that you can to take advantage of that, because once it expires on June 30th, I don't think that if you forget to do it or you don't take advantage of it, I don't think we can go back. And I've kind of had that conversation with Mark. So we're trying to make sure everyone knows. You don't have to be a member. As long as you have a NAICS code 72, submit on the DRS form. I think it's even up there right now for those different weeks. You can't go back and submit. So obviously your last week will be that week in May, but that's really the other update that I have. So I'm going to open it up to questions. Nicole, did I miss anything else, or just trying to look to the side here on the chat? Thank you, Yvette, for answering that questions on my CT savings on certifying your company. So we got an email from the state. Actually, you know what? I'll go actually to our contact information too. So you guys all have our emails to make sure you guys know people to contact. I apologize, an update this morning. Emily has moved on to another great job. So please make sure that you use the emails of everybody else that's on here. What time is it? It is under an hour. Wow, this is like a record here. Nicole, do you have anything else?
No, but we have a question here from Patty about to-go alcohol, or Jessica. That is still in effect. When that legislation passed last year, it was for 3 years. So we've got another year. We'll probably go to the General Law Committee next year and ask that they make it permanent. So you're good to go on to-go alcohol for a little while longer.
Yeah, so through 2024, as Nicole mentioned. So the legislature, didn't want to try to make it permanent in this session, which we were okay with, as long as we get this thing done before it expires. So it'll stay in place. You can continue to do it through June of 2024, I believe is when it would sunset. But we will hopefully get that done in a future session. is it only for brick and mortar establishments or any food business with a liquor license? It's a great question, Patty. I need to look into it because I know that we went back and forth on this, Nicole, with like the catering liquor licenses and being able to do to-go alcohol. So we will reach back out to you if you could send us an email to kind of figure out exactly what your business is, if it isn't brick and mortar, to see how we can help find an answer for you.
The hours are the same as package store hours.
Jessica, what can be to go? We'll probably send an updated as I continue to see all these different questions. Probably just a refresher for everybody. Remember that, it needs to be a sealed container. What I recommend is obviously you can't have straw holes or taped over straw holes, but realistically it needs to be sealed. So, if it got into someone's car there until they get home, you can have, bottles of wine that are corked, which is kind of always kind of been, but you can obviously sell the bottles of wine. You can do up to a liter of liquor. So if you wanted to do a package of, a bottle of whiskey with old fashioned ingredients in little containers, you could do that. I've seen sangria. I've seen all different mixed drinks. I've just seen margaritas that have a lid on it. That's, I think, getting a piece of tape with your logo is something I've seen in a lot of, not only in Connecticut, but as I've traveled around the country over the last year and a half. I've seen different things, but it just needs to be sealed. And we'll kind of send out all that updated information to make sure, you guys are well versed in it. But, for those of you that aren't taking advantage of it, listen, I get it's not like a 20 or 30% of your revenue line, but even if it's 2 or 3 or 4% are getting creative, like it's another way to try to help you guys in your recovery. And another way to kind of promote that with the meals. I know even as I was at a brewery yesterday at Back East with Tony, I know like the can sales of getting a 4-pack of some of the top canned beer in the state at some of the restaurants, and they go and they want to pick up a pizza or they want to go and pick up a dinner and they have a cooler of like, high priced, IPAs, and you can grab that out of the cooler and sell that. Like, I think that's just another benefit that you want to be offering to your guests so they don't have to, make 3 stops on the way home. If they can get everything there, is something that I know a lot of restaurants have been looking and taking advantage of. So happy to help you guys with ideas, but also showcasing the skills of some of your bartenders and, take nothing for granted. They're even some of the mixed drinks and some of the things that they can make is much better than I could ever make at home. So how do you kind of use that to your advantage to promote that to your guests? And we had to be in line with package store pricing. That's just a lot of alcohol. Package store hours. There was nothing on pricing. Other questions? Yvette, did I miss anything else today?
No, Scott, I think that's good. And as we mentioned in the email, we will send out links to all of this or any kind of references that we made during this webinar. So you guys have that all in one email. So look out for that. It takes a couple hours for us to get the link, but we'll send everything out then.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I have is, we go back to the outdoor dining. I've been looking at my phone throughout this webinar from our release yesterday. I have a handful of media inquiries that I'll be doing. I'll try to send them to all of your ways throughout the state, depending upon where the cameras are. But this is a great thing. This is something you want to talk about and thank legislators, thank, all the way, whether it's your local legislator, everyone else allowing you to go outside again for another 13 months. To utilize space and help you in recovery. Please understand that the messaging, you want to be positive, you want to get people back inside your restaurant, but also perception is not reality right now. I was with the governor and his team last week during St. Patrick's Day, and he was talking to me about a restaurant in Greenwich he was at, how packed it was on Saturday. And I had to explain to him that there's still 20,000 jobs short. There's still worker shortage. Your hours aren't the same. You're not open the same number of days. Food costs are getting out of control or continuing to be out of control. Your prime cost with labor costs and food costs and not getting supplies continues to go up, continues to be a challenge. So for you to even try to break even, you haven't started recovery yet. That's really been my messaging. It'll continue to be. This is a great step in the right direction to helping you on your pathway to recovery. But understand that I'm trying to keep that narrative going as much as I can. And I think for you guys as well as sharing that, being truthful. If you have an opportunity to do media, you have an opportunity to talk to a legislator, tell them what's really going on, because all they see is from the outside, like, oh, I went there Saturday night. I had to wait for a table. That my local place is doing great now. They're in good hands. Let's not forget the 2 years of debt that you've been carrying, or the EIDL loans, or all the other things that you're dealing with. So I know that, I feel that, Nicole, Yvette, our whole team knows what you're going through. But I think anytime that we have an opportunity to keep that message, keep that narrative going, we need to, because it's going to be so vital. Thank you, Nicole, for putting out the limits. What you can do: 196 ounces of beer, a liter of spirits, and a liter and a half of wine. Sales tax relief program, great, Yvette. Sure, we have all these links. Please take advantage of that. Yeah, we can. I'll stop the recording. I'll stay on for a couple more minutes if anybody feels weird asking a question recording. I know sometimes we get some good banter afterwards, but I just appreciate all of your guys' help and support of where we are so far in session and getting this bill across the finish line. I'm hoping it's going to be a great asset for each of you guys on this call for the entire 2022 into the winter, and hopefully a little bit of early next spring. So